Now, the Christmas period in the Premier League takes no prisoners, and neither do we, because we are just about to do our winners and losers of the Christmas period in the Premier League. Phil Egan, you're in studio with me today. How are you?
Good, yeah.
I should be calling you Phil the Power Egan, because we're just finished the Dart season.
Yeah, absolutely. The power, the finisher. That's about it for me, nicknames.
What would be your walk-in music?
Oh, I don't know. It's got to be a dance tune, though. You want to get the crowd involved. If you get the crowd involved in it, then they're going to warm to you more. I
think I'd be going with something Daniel O'Donnell.
Yeah, they're probably not going to warm to you then. Nothing against Daniel, but if you're over there in the alley pally, they're not going to know who Daniel O'Donnell is.
Yeah, but that's even better. I want to be the man who the crowd hates. A bit like Peter Wright. Peter Wright wouldn't be that. Well, maybe not hated, but he wouldn't be liked that often.
They were cheering for him in the final.
Fair.
He's got they sing his name, and he's got a serious walk on, a bit of Pitbull, and he dances, and it's embarrassing at times, but
well, he's got the look anyway.
He does. Whatever the look is, he's got it.
Right. So, firstly, I'm going to explain our criteria from this. For the get-go, it's all opinion. There's no algorithm. There's no point system. We're basing this off what we're seeing on the pitch and who we think are the winners and losers of the week. So we're going to start off with...
I feel bad calling people losers, though.
They're Premier League footballers. They're winners anyway.
Yeah, they're winning.
They already have a better life than us.
Yeah.
So they're all winners at the end of the day.
So we're basically putting the winners, some of them are just put into a losers column.
Losers column of already winners in life.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll start off with Mikel Arteta, Arsenal manager now, former Arsenal player, former Everton player. What have you made of his transformation of this Arsenal team after 3 games?
It's clear. I watched the Bournemouth game, and because it's such a small ground, you could actually hear on the mic, the pitch side mics, you could hear his commands of when to press. So very little time to work with the players, but you could actually hear when one goes, the other goes. And I know the people think pressing, it's just closing down people, but there's tactical pressing, and obviously the best managers in the world do it now. So he's trying to get that in. It was quite notable against Chelsea and against Manchester United that they start well, but they're running out of steam.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the issue, that they could be... what could end up happening in a lot of their games is they could be leading at half-time but end up dropping points because they just run out of gas. So they need to be able to manage games better. That will come with working on fitness. David Luiz said it after the United game that their fitness isn't good enough, but also when they get better players that can take the sting out of games, that you just hold on to possession and kill the game. Because every time, even watching the United game, as bad as United were, you felt if United scored 1 goal, panic would set in with Arsenal, kind of how it did in the Chelsea game. Yeah,
well, I was actually driving down home from Donegal yesterday during the first half, so I missed the first half of the Arsenal game, but all I could hear, I was listening to the commentary on Off the Ball with Stephen Doyle, and all you could hear was the stadium erupting every time that I watched back the first half last night then when I got down, and it was the Arsenal players pressing and harrying the United players. The United players didn't know what to do in the first half really, and it was something that was going on in the Chelsea game as well. They just did run out of steam, and like you said, David Luiz alluded to that after the game. And another interesting thing, what David Luiz was saying after the game, was talking about how he's happy now that Mikel Arteta came in. He knows the game, he knows Arsenal, he was a great player, he knows the club, as every manager seems to do now. But he was talking about how the players may not have bought into the philosophy. He didn't say that in so many words, but the way that he was talking, it was as if the players weren't happy under Unai Emery and his philosophy and didn't really buy into it, but they're going to do that now.
Well, the beauty of Arteta's team selection against United was something that Emery didn't do all the time, was play all these attacking players. So Arteta has obviously looked at the squad, and it's top heavy with attackers. So just play your best attackers, and the hardest part of football is scoring goals. So if Arsenal are scoring goals and they're leaking goals, it's easier to fix the defence.
Yeah.
And if he has all these good attacking players, why not play them? I thought Ozil was very good. Ozil, for all the critics he has, what he does when he has the ball is what's so good about him. Okay, what he doesn't do when he doesn't have the ball is an issue, especially when a team is trying to get possession back and you look at him and he's not really pressing. But it looked like his energy levels were...
they were much higher last night.
Much higher.
I think he actually was the Arsenal player with the most interceptions last night as well. And that's a noticeable change. I suppose if you're looking at the modern way of managing, I know Arsenal are top heavy, but if they're pressing from the front, they're almost defending from the front as well. So maybe that's something Arteta identified with as well.
That's what Guardiola has done. Obviously, with much better players, so when they do get the ball, they can use it a lot better. But people have always looked at the Manchester City defence and said that it's a weak link. But Guardiola's philosophy is defend by not giving the ball away.
Yeah.
So that's going to take time. But it's a nice situation for him to come into, because if he had come in straight after they sacked Emery, but the fact that Freddie Ljungberg was in there and it didn't go very well means no Arsenal fan now expects a top 4 finish. So he can go in, if he can finish in the top 6, have a good run in the Europa League, but they see progress and they see a plan. And it's only 3 games in, but you can see a plan already.
Yeah, you can definitely see a plan coming together under Mikel Arteta. Nicolas Pep opened the scoring, but it came from a mistake from David De Gea.
Yeah.
He's going down as a loser this week for us, and it's not too often you say that about David De Gea.
No, but you think back to the Everton game as well. He made a mistake in that one, and the Watford game. These are mistakes that are creeping into his game more and more. And you think back to when Real Madrid pretty much had a deal done for him, and apart from a dodgy fax machine, it would have gone through, or so we're led to believe. And the general feeling was that De Gea was going to go. Now he's been in everyone's team of the decade because he's been the best keeper in the Premier League, but he's certainly not as good as he used to be.
No.
And the fact that he's starting to make mistakes now is just going to add to the problems they have at the back, because sometimes United concede sloppy goals.
Well, they're third last in the table of clean sheets this year. They've only kept 3 clean sheets so far. David De Gea has made 2 mistakes that have led straight to a goal. So it's definitely this thing that's creeping into his game. And I was thinking about the keepers in the Premier League this year, and I would still probably have him as third best after Alisson and Ederson. I still don't think there's many keepers that he would be put out of the team. But maybe it's a good chance for United to rotate.
Well, Romero obviously will play the FA Cup. They've League Cup coming up as well.
Yeah.
Against Man City, did they throw him in for those 2 legs as well? And then the Europa League, which will be coming up as well. But I've always thought like Sergio Romero's the best sub-keeper in the Premier League.
He definitely is, and he'd probably start for a lower side in the Premier League as well.
Well, look at other clubs even in the top 6. I'd have him ahead of, well, obviously Gazaniga. I'd nearly put him ahead of Lloris. I'd rather have him in goal ahead of Lloris.
He's a very good goalkeeper, and what is interesting though is that against Arsenal in the FA Cup, Solskjaer went for De Gea over Romero, so I don't know whether it's he doesn't fancy him enough or whether in the bigger games he's always going to give the shout to David De Gea, but something's going to have to change, and I suppose Craig Mawson coming in from Burnley is what they're trying to do there.
Get a new goalkeeping coach in, but yeah, I think back to the end of last season and De Gea's confidence was shattered. But I actually agreed with Solskjaer by keeping him in. Basically, just get to the end of the season. You knew that they weren't going to get their Champions League football. So just see it out, and hopefully comes back at the start of the season and gets his confidence back. And it looked like it was coming back. But now some mistakes are starting to creep in. So Solskjaer's got a dilemma. What does he do? Even though it's a cup game, I suppose he has the comfort that if he does play Romero, he can say, well, this was always the plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be a bit of a concern that goalkeepers, like De Gea, is at that age where he
needs to be peak.
He should be coming into his peak.
It's a wonder is the change in the game, the fact that goalkeepers aren't allowed to be this passive anymore, and he is sort of that old style goalkeeper that
he's a
shot stopper and no more.
Stopper, yeah.
But he's not great at holding the ball. He never has really been that good at holding the ball, but he's made a couple of mistakes now, and if United are going to get top 4, he's going to have to seal that up because their defence isn't doing it either. We're going to turn our attention now to the bottom of the table, and Nigel Pearson, what a job he's done since he came in from Watford.
Yeah, unbelievable. So the signs were there the day they went to Anfield, and they gave Liverpool awful problems. And a lot of people said Liverpool were awful that day, but it transpires Watford were actually just really good and have since caused problems for many teams. Obviously, they've beaten Wolves, they beat Manchester United, and they were unfortunate not to get a win against Sheffield United as well. Bit of an issue with discipline, maybe.
Yeah.
But Deeney coming back is a big help for them as well. because they weren't scoring goals, even that day at Anfield.
Well, that was the issue.
He was there, but he wasn't sharp.
Yeah. What went wrong for Watford against Liverpool is they didn't take the chances when they had it. I know Sarr had a good chance. Decore's chance before that, terrible miss, and then another bad shot led to the corner that led to the Liverpool goal. Yeah. So they've started to score goals now and the confidence started to come back. Yeah. And we've always said in the last couple of weeks that this Watford side shouldn't be down there based on their squad.
Well, I know at the start of the season we would have all done our picks. I don't remember many people picking Watford to get relegated.
No, well, I think people had actually selected Watford to be pushing for Europe this year because they did so well last year.
And he'll appreciate the shout out. Richie McCormack had Javi Gracia to be the first manager to get sacked. So there was
I think Raf Diallo did as well, I'd say.
He's gone now, okay? We have to move on. But you think back to the end of the last season and there was the hangover and it kind of fed into the start of this season, brought in Flores, that didn't work, but Pearson, you think back to the season with Leicester and he kept them up and then obviously went in the summer for different reasons. It wasn't anything to do with his ability as a manager, but then obviously Leicester went on to win the league. So what I'm saying there is maybe Watford are going to win the Premier League next season.
Well, I think maybe people formed their opinion on Pearson based on the fact that Leicester went on to win the league that season the following, but that was just a freak. And it was a brilliant job the Pearson actually did with Leicester to keep them up.
Yeah,
only 3 teams have done that.
7 of the last 9.
Yeah, so he's clearly a good manager and he's clearly got something out of these Watford players that he needed to do because they're off the bottom of the Premier League.
Yeah, they needed a kick up the backside and he strikes me as a manager that would put a bit of fear into you. You know, sometimes his interviews can be slightly awkward. You think back to the Ostrich press conference and if you're asking him questions and he doesn't like a question, he won't be...
he won't beat around the bush about it. A bit like Troy Deeney in a way.
Yeah.
Troy Deeney's quite like that. So Nigel Pearson goes down as a winner. Sticking to the bottom of the Premier League, Eddie Howe. What a change it's been in the last couple of years for him.
Yeah, gets linked with every big job that comes along. Most big jobs. When I say big jobs that are teams that are kind of pushing for top 6 with potential, and Eddie Howe is always mentioned to them because he's done such a good job to get Bournemouth into the Premier League. You still have to... the reality is he got Bournemouth into the Premier League, keeps them up every season. And there is spells during seasons when he's been in charge of Bournemouth that you think they could go here, but they always get out of it. They're back in that situation now.
Do you think is he fallen into the kind of trap of... I want to say the likes of Arsene Wenger, where he's just there for that little bit too long that these players just don't buy into the same thing that he's trying to tell them every week.
Yeah, I think he's been a little bit unlucky with injuries as well. But one thing that has never really improved under him is defence. And he obviously has his ideas of how he wants the game played. But surely to God, you want to stop conceding goals.
Yeah.
And he's got some of the same personnel that he had in the third tier of English football. Great servants to the club. But what I mean there is someone like Nathan Ake you bring in, you spend a lot of money on, but when he gets injured, then you're kind of left a bit exposed.
I suppose that's what he tried to do, bringing in Philip Billing.
Yeah.
But then he got injured. So his injuries at the back have been probably at fault for their form of late. They've only won 2 in the last 10. But they have been an inconsistent side under Eddie Howe since they've been in the Premier League.
They're just a strange team where you think they beat United and they beat Chelsea this season, and then they can go out and lose games badly. I mean, they shouldn't be losing 4-0 to West Ham.
Yeah. That brings us on to David Moyes. Winner.
He's a winner because...
in his own words, he is a winner.
Yeah. Why is that there?
Because how many games has he won as a Premier League manager? Or game percentage? Where do you think he is on the table? He said, in his own words, he says, I think only 2 or 3 managers with a better Premier League win record. That's what I do. I win.
But is he talking about percentage or actual amount of games? Because there's a big difference there, the fact that he was at Everton for so long.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. So I don't know what I think he's just referencing based on memory that, you know what, I'm there for a good while, I should have a good enough record. But he's 5th in the table of managers who have taken a charge of more than 300 games. Ahead of him is Alex Ferguson, Jose Mourinho, Arsene Wenger and Rafa Benitez. So there's not too many managers that have taken over more than 300 games in the Premier League, first of all. So he's in a big bracket there.
Yeah, so that's where he gets in on the technicality.
Yeah.
But I suppose he would have been wondering, like he left West Ham 18 months ago, he would have been wondering, would I ever get another job in the Premier League? Because those kind of firefighters, there seems to be, there's been a move away from them.
Yeah.
Big Sam is no longer on the speed dial. And Moyes, he was linked with Everton. But I think the feeling there was Kenwright wanted him because he trusted him, whereas Mashiri was thinking, yeah, look, he did a great job, but we want to move into the future. So
yeah, David Moyes really would have been a step back.
Yeah, and
is that what West Ham are doing now then?
Yeah, but I suppose they're looking at it thinking he did okay. Like they were in worse trouble when he took over the last time, and he kept them up. So they've got him in, and straight away they get their you often hear about West Ham have these grand ideas of how they want to play football, but the bottom line is West Ham, all the fans that are going to this new stadium, which hasn't helped them at all, they want to see wins, and they haven't been getting it. They've got some really good players, but again, they're not great at the back. They need to get a bit of steel into them, and that's something that he can do. But how long will he keep the West Ham fans happy for?
Well, at least Fabianski's back, so that's a big
huge
boost.
thing, because the goalkeeper was killing them, Roberto, and I know Martin came in for a couple of games as well, but yeah, Roberto, I don't think he'd be on Manuel Pellegrini's Christmas card list for next season.
Did you watch the West Ham highlights? The pitch looked really bad yesterday for a new stadium. I mean, come on, at least do that bit right.
Yeah, but it hasn't been a very good move for them. When you think of the night that they finished in Upton Park, their last game, when they beat United, and the atmosphere, and that was always a really horrible ground to go to when West Ham were at it, and they were that season under Bilic, but especially with Dimitri Payet. But I remember when we were doing commentary games from London Stadium, the lads were joking, saying you'd need binoculars to see the players, you're that far back.
Well, I went to see them against Sheffield United this year, and I was right up at the rafters because I bought the tickets late on, and it was genuinely baffling how far away I was from the pitch. I couldn't believe it because, like you, I've heard the jokes, how far away the pitch is, but it drains the atmosphere. Once, after they get blowing bubbles out of the way at the start of the game, the stadium just drops, and that's it, dead silence for most of the game. You can hear the players on the pitch.
But I know Brian Kerr said it was the equivalent of looking over your wall into someone's garden.
Yeah.
Like it's not yours.
That's it. So David Moyes, he'd go down as a winner for this week. I'm not too sure how many times he'll go down as a winner in our list in the next couple of weeks. We'll move back up to the top of the league, and probably the league winners at this stage, Liverpool. Brilliant Christmas period, despite concerns over how many games they were playing in a row.
Yeah, well, it was more a case of the travel. Just go to Qatar, because they still weren't actually playing that many more games than other people. But and people thought, did they, make too much of the World Club Cup? But it was the fact that they'd never won it. They just wanted that prestige, and they obviously wore their jerseys with the Gold Cup on it for the Wolves game. But then to come back and the performance they put in against Leicester, like they were on it from the first minute. You knew, sometimes you can tell where it's going to be a tough night, but you knew from the first minute that Liverpool were so far ahead of Leicester. And the only concern was they hadn't got the second goal, but once Milner scores, then the floodgates open. The
referee made himself a hero though, Phil, according to Kasper Schmeichel.
Yeah, I mean,
in a 4-0 win, is the referee really the
by
hero
the way,
there?
Leicester, how many shots on target? 0.
See, that's the thing though. It was such a dominant performance, and a lot of the times in a Premier League winning season, you look at the little wins, the niggly wins, the 2-1 wins, they come back and scrape a win, and you're like, that's the performance that won the league. But this year for Liverpool, they've been so dominant that we might actually be looking at this 4-0 win against their closest rivals this year as the season-defining moment.
Yeah, but they did beat Leicester 2-1 at Anfield with the late penalty from Milner, and obviously Mane got booed throughout the game at the King Power because of his involvement in that. But there was a lot of 2-1s for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Even the Wolves game, it was edgy towards the end. They didn't play particularly well, but they're starting to keep clean sheets again. And one of the real winners of the last month has to be Jordan Henderson, because he's a European winning captain.
Well, who'd have thought that when he first signed, when he's struggling to get into the side, that he would go on to be the captain of this side? And Liverpool brought him for 18 million at the time.
Yeah, but I think Klopp loves him because he sees a little bit of himself in Henderson, where Henderson isn't the most gifted player in the team. Now, he's improved under Klopp, but he just gives everything.
Yeah.
And just little things. I remember watching the Barcelona game, second leg last season. There was an incident where Messi was having a go at Andy Robertson, and Henderson was straight over, basically to say, "You can walk away now." He's just, he is the captain of that team, and he's fitted into that deep line role better than most would have expected, apart from Kenny Cunningham, who was crying out for that to happen ahead of Fabinho. Now, Kenny was making the point that Fabinho is an excellent player, but he just prefers Henderson in that role because he's more dynamic.
He's brought more to his game this year as well, though, because a lot of the criticisms of him was that he was too passive. All of his passes either went sideways or backwards, but now he's starting to spray these 50-yard balls over the top, which is a clear tactic for this Liverpool side. That's where they got the goal in the previous game as well, from Lallana's the ball over the top from Virgil van Dijk. Lallana, questionable whether it was a handball. VAR ruled that it wasn't. But they've started to bring this into their game, and Jordan Henderson started to bring that into his game as well.
It's obviously something they've worked on. They just thought, how do we beat these teams trying to press us now? Let's just ping 50, 60-yard balls. You saw it in the Merseyside derby that Liverpool just got over Everton. They were just able to play one ball in, and they were clean through.
Yeah, and it was something that the guys on BT Sport, Van Persie and Rio Ferdinand, identified as something that United haven't been doing enough, that Rashford and Martial are making these great runs and they're not getting the ball early enough because the midfielders can't pick out that pass, whereas Liverpool can do that, especially from Virgil van Dijk picking up the ball deep and Henderson now picking up the ball deep. Will they beat City's record?
I don't know. Do you know, you think of the season, we're at the halfway stage of the season and it's been pretty much flawless from Liverpool. But you'd wonder, could they replicate that for the second half of the season? Now, I'm not saying they'll have to win the league. They've got a bit of a cushion. Plus, you look at who's chasing them down, Leicester and Man City. They don't look like... City don't look like the City of the previous two seasons where they could go on a run and win 18, 19 games in a row.
Yeah.
And you just saw, even watching them against Everton, I know Bravo was in goal because of the Ederson red card against Wolves, but City were in so much control of that game, yet they made the last 10 minutes nervy because they conceded a goal. And finally Guardiola's realised, just get on Otamendi out of there. He played Garcia, because when you looked at the Wolves game, the City team, you saw Fernandinho and Otamendi starting. If you're Wolves, you're looking at this going, happy days. Not only is Fernandinho not in his best position, but he's playing alongside Otamendi. And it was actually Otamendi that played a part in the red card. But yeah, I don't think they certainly won't get the 100 points. I'm not sure they're going to even get the 97 points they got themselves last season. They won't care.
I would disagree with there. I think they're going to break the record. I think they're going to go over 100. They look unbeatable. I know a lot of things can change. One injury can change the entire season.
And just the odd draw might happen. You look at their next few fixtures, obviously the Cup this weekend. Wouldn't be surprised if Everton dumped them out of the Cup. I don't think that would bother Liverpool fans too much, given the bigger picture. But then their next fixture is away to Spurs. Jose's going to love that. Then they've got United at home as well, and then they're away to Wolves. So they're three tricky games for them.
Speaking of Jose Mourinho and Tottenham, he's going down as a loser, and the honeymoon period is over.
Yeah, 3 defeats in 7. And anyone that thought Jose Mourinho had changed, did anyone honestly believe when he went on the charm offensive at the start? You know, little things like the Dele Alli comments, are you Dele Alli? Are you Dele Alli's brother? And people are like, he played it so well. Or giving the ball to Troy Parrott after giving him his Premier League debut. Like, if people buy that, then more fool them, because as soon as things go wrong, that's when Mourinho's mask slips, and happened on New Year's Day against Southampton. And
it slipped yesterday, or New Year's Day even, against Southampton, as you said. Booked on the line for being rude to an idiot.
Yeah.
Mike Dean. Not sure if we can buy into that. We have a couple more to get to before we finish up. We have Ralph Hasenhuttl, Adama Traore, Jahanbakhsh and VAR. Your choice.
Okay, Hasenhuttl. So at the start of the season when we were doing our picks, I picked Southampton as a team that will finish in the top half. I was so impressed with Hasenhuttl. So the night they lost 9-0 to Leicester, it was the 25th of October, and I thought, he's done for. They're going to sack him, because their next two games were against City, one in the League Cup, and then the following weekend they were playing in the league. That was the game where Southampton went 1-0 up at the Etihad, almost got a draw. Kyle Walker scored a late goal. But ever since then, Danny Ings is the difference. He started scoring goals. Even Mikel Obafemi scored a great goal against Chelsea. But yeah, you're starting to see that Hasenhutl's a good coach. I think it was a massive coup for them to get him. And I just thought it would have been an awful shame if they'd pulled the trigger early on him. Now, if they can bring in a few players in January, they've got themselves a chance. Also, with the 9-0, one thing it did do was it allowed a change of goalkeeper. I'm not saying Alex McCarthy is the answer, but certainly he's just made them a bit better than when Angus Gunn was in there.
Yeah. Adama Traore, winner?
Winner. Always liked this guy. Remember the first time I saw him playing in the flesh, he was playing for Villa. This is the team that went down under Remy Gard. So they were playing Arsenal. Arsenal were cruise control, 2-0 up at Villa Park. Villa fans resigned to the fact they were getting relegated. It was just before Christmas. Resigned to the fact they were going to lose the game. Traore got the ball in his own box, knocked it by one player, ran the whole length of the pitch. Now, ran into a dead end in the end, but got the crowd up off their seats and put a smile on people's faces for a few minutes. He's always had this ability to be able to just glide by players, but now Nuno is playing him in a more advanced role, so Matt Doherty holds on to his right wing-back role, and Traore has caused absolute carnage for City in both games.
Yeah.
He's scored in both games, and you know he's been called up to the Spain squad.
He's a brilliant player, but often these players, they burst forward, they can't do much, they don't bring that final layer to their game that they need, and they kind of fall to the wayside. Theo Walcott being one of the examples.
Sometimes their legs move faster than their brains.
Yeah.
But you can see now that with Traore, it's something that they've worked on, and if he doesn't take on the shot, you know, even he's just calmer in the final third, and what an asset he's been, because even the Liverpool game, he didn't start, and Liverpool fans were delighted he didn't start, but as soon as he comes on, he strikes fear into you, because you don't know what he's going to do, but his ability just to knock the ball by someone. He could be standing still, knocks the ball by you.
And that's it. Well, his dribbling is brilliant. And I remember hearing a story about Tony Pulis when he was playing under him. And you'd think that a player like Adama Traore is not a Tony Pulis player whatsoever, but he loved him because he had so much ability, but he didn't have that added bit to his game where he knew where to be in the pitch at the right time, or getting on the ball and losing possession too easily. So what Tony Pulis would do would, every time, if the dugout was on the right-hand side, he'd play him right wing, and then for the second half, he'd swap him over to the left wing so that he was there and he could coach him during the game. I suppose Nuno has brought an added layer of coaching to him as well.
That's it.
Kind of like what Pep Guardiola did with Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, because people would say certain players just can't be coached. You know, they can have all this ability. You mentioned Walcott. Obviously, didn't get the right guidance, but Guardiola and Sterling is the prime example that when he went to City, they thought they were getting this unbelievable player, but all it was potential, and Guardiola is the one that's got it out of him and turned him into one of the most informed players in world football at the moment.
That's it. So Adama Traore, you're a winner for this week.
Yeah.
We're going to move now really quickly through the last two. Alireza Jahanbakhsh got his first goal and then his second goal from a bicycle kick yesterday on New Year's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a guy that when you saw him playing for Iran at the World Cup, and when Brighton signed him, you thought, that's an unbelievable signing. They got him from Alkmaar. But it just never really worked. He was injured, and Chris Hughton has his certain way of playing, and he wasn't making many changes. But Jahanbakhsh has come in now under Graham Potter, and obviously had to rotate a bit over Christmas. But because they play a little bit differently, they will take more risks. That suits him, and it just took one goal. You saw when he scored his goal against Bournemouth the other day what it meant to him, and then you could argue that if he doesn't score that goal against Bournemouth, he doesn't try that overhead against Chelsea.
Yeah.
And when your eye is in, your confidence is up, those are the things that happen and they come off.
Well, when he got that first goal, there was a burst of emotion. You could tell that he was frustrated with his own form. But I think that's one of the strengths of Brighton under Potter, is that they aren't over-reliant on one player or another. The likes of Aaron Moyes now starting to pop up with a few goals. Aaron Conley is coming through. Nathan Mopé is a player that's burst onto the scene as well. So they've got a lot of players that are getting goals for them, a lot of players that are dangerous, and it comes down to the way that they're playing football as well. Yeah,
they still need to score more goals. And I actually watching Conley in the Spurs game, and I'm not. I think I want to see him play it out on the left. I just think for his development, just to get him more use and kind of up to speed on Premier League football, that at times I felt when he played through the centre against Spurs, he was isolated. Now he's tough and he's stocky and he's well able to handle himself, but there was a moment where he got the ball out a little bit wider and he caused a few problems. Whereas if a ball's been played up to him down the middle, I'd like to see him ball to feet on the wing, like when we've seen him playing for the Ireland under-21s, and he just glides by players and he has that ability to put in good crosses as well.
Yeah, it's great to see him getting chances under Brighton, and Adama came through for Norwich at the weekend as well. So it's great to see these Irish players breaking through. I think
Obafemi as well.
We have the second highest rate of representation in the Premier League this year after England, so that's something to be really excited about as an Irish fan of the Premier League. We're going to finish off with what I expect is going to be a loser for the rest of the season, and that's VAR. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's going to be such a talking point for the rest of the year. The rule makers have come out and said that the VAR is being used far too forensically by the Premier League, that's not the intention at all, and that just seems like common sense, really.
Yeah, my issue is it's just taking the fun out of the game. It's taking the flow out of the game. That when we watched football before VAR came in to the Premier League, mistakes happen, and look, as long as they're not catastrophic ones like a Thierry Henry handball, or like a really blatant offside which is missed. This crack of somebody's toe is offside, okay, that's the rules, that's not VAR's fault, but it just means that anytime that there's a goal scored now, you question whether it's going to be a goal.
Yeah, and that's something I thought was very obvious when Conor Cody was doing a post-match interview after Wolves had a goal disallowed, and he was saying the players in the dark, they don't know whether to celebrate or not. Yeah. And it was heartbreaking to see some of these players celebrate, and some of these players have scored their first goal on their debut for Wolves, and yet it was ruled offside because his armpit was offside.
Yeah, well, even Dan Byrne, the left back for Brighton, scored against Bournemouth the other day. It was ruled out, so he's done his celebration. Think of Aubameyang and his flip that he does, which can't be good for your knees. Is he going to have to revise that? Imagine Robbie Keane, all those cartwheels he did, he would have had to chalk them off because they were goals that were disallowed.
Can you imagine Adebayor, his goal against Arsenal, ran the length of the pitch to celebrate in front of the Arsenal fans, ruled VAR?
That would have
offside.
He would have deserved that for the role he played in that. Because that was City against Arsenal and he ran all the way down the pitch. So that would have actually been funny. But yeah, it's fun. When you actually watch games that don't have VAR, I'm starting to enjoy them more.
Well, the Celtic Rangers game, the Old Firm, the Celtic goal would have been ruled disallowed had VAR been in there, and it ended up making the game a little bit more interesting because Celtic were back into it.
See, we just live in a world now where everything has to be perfect, and if you get something wrong, then you have to be pulled up on it. And that's something that has been created by social media, that if a team scores a goal, the opposition supporters look at it and say, well, he was offside, that shouldn't have been a goal. It's screenshotted, and now it plays out with VAR, and it's just actually Klopp made a good point on it as well. It's something to bear in mind as players are standing around for a few minutes, which he said someone's going to pick up injuries after that because they get cold or
starting to tighten up a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a compromise, or do you just have to? Is it all or nothing?
Well, there has to be a compromise of some sort, because there's two successful sports in this that have VAR or have a similar type of it: NFL and rugby.
But they're both stop-start sports.
They are, but for some reason the Premier League tried to reinvent the wheel, where they could have borrowed certain things from, say, for rugby they have the referees mic'd up, or NFL.
That would be a good idea.
NFL, the managers have challenges, and they only have a certain amount of challenges a game. Certain things like that might have been even tried out to see if they work.
I don't know. I don't like the thoughts of somebody like a manager throwing the flag on, saying, "Yeah, we're going to challenge that," and then. Yeah, like I said, I think I know what you mean with those two sports you mentioned, but they're stop-start sports.
Yeah.
Australia, football, the beauty of football is there's a flow to it. That's why things like the back pass rule were outlawed, because you could slow the game down. Now people just want fast pace, just 100 miles an hour. That's all gone now.
Yeah, the VAR is ruining that. But I don't know. It's hard to see where we go from here. It's going down as a loser. It's probably going to be a loser for the rest of the year. And if we do a big, fat, crappy winners and losers of the year, VAR is going to be number one.
Like the undefeated, undisputed champion.
They're going to need to change it. So just to round up to where we are this week: Mikel Arteta, winner; David Haye, loser; Nigel Pearson is a winner. Liverpool are winners because they're going to win the league. Let's face it. Eddie Howe is a loser. Hasenhuttl, winner. Adama Traore, winner. David Moyes, in his own words, he is a winner. Jose Mourinho is a loser. Jahanbakhsh, winner. And VAR, as we said, is a loser. That's all we have time for, our winners and losers. Thanks very much for coming in, Phil.
Thank you.